The Revenant tells a gripping tale of Leonardo, left for dead after a vicious bear attack. He watches helplessly as his son is killed right in front of him. Driven by the need for revenge, Leonardo endures brutal conditions, spending a night inside a horse's body to survive the freezing cold. His injuries are so severe that water leaks from his torn throat. After weeks without food, will Leonardo stay alive long enough to get justice for his son? Let's watch and see. The story starts in 1823, deep in a rugged forest, where 45 men are involved in hunting animals and selling their pelts. Among them are Hugh Glass and his son, Hawk. Things take a dramatic turn when their group is suddenly ambushed by a native tribe. The attack is fueled by the kidnapping of the tribal chief's daughter, and the tribe suspects the hunters are behind it. Many of the men are killed in the chaos. Only 10 survive. Those 10 scramble to escape by boarding a boat, but they're far from safe. The area is completely under tribal control, and their every move on the river is being watched. At any moment, another attack could strike. Amid the fear and uncertainty, the group's leader turns to Glass for guidance. Glass advises ditching the boat and traveling by land instead. One man pushes back, saying the land route is not only longer but far more dangerous and could take weeks to reach safety. But the group places their trust in Glass's experience and decides to go with his plan. To throw off the tribe, they leave the boat drifting in the river and stash the animal pelts under some rocks, planning to come back for them later. They then begin the harsh trek through the forest. The path is brutal, and with winter fast approaching, the situation grows even more desperate, but they have no other option. That night, they rest in the woods. The next morning brings confirmation that the plan worked. The tribe discovers the abandoned boat and realizes the group must be heading north through the forest. Determined to wipe them out, the tribe gives chase. The remaining survivors push onward, constantly on edge and surrounded by danger. After a full day's hike, they set up camp, hoping the area is safe. The next morning, Glass is the first to wake. He checks his rifle and heads out to scout the forest. There's a strange tension in the air. Something feels off. Suddenly, he spots a pair of bear cubs. Before he can react, the mother bear charges. Glass's rifle slips from his hands, and the bear mauls him brutally. Bleeding and barely conscious, he lies on the ground as the bear stands just feet away. Summoning every ounce of willpower, Glass reaches for his rifle, but the bear charges again. He manages to fire a shot, but it barely slows the beast. With another savage blow, the bear leaves him on the edge of death. All he has left is a knife. Moaning in pain, he draws the blade. As the injured bear charges once more, Glass uses his final strength to fight back. The two tumble down a slope in a violent struggle. Eventually, the bear collapses on top of him, dead. Glass, too, is barely alive. His companions find him soon after. They pull the bear's body off and try desperately to treat his wounds. But his condition is critical. His throat is slashed, his leg is broken, and his chances of survival look grim. Meanwhile, the tribesmen, having secured the animal hides, trade them for guns and horses, increasing their strength and becoming an even greater threat. Glass's group builds a rough stretcher to try and carry him, but the steep, unforgiving terrain makes the task nearly impossible. Seeing the hopelessness of it all, the captain orders that Glass be put out of his misery. But Hawk, Glass's son, steps forward, begging them to give his father a chance. Moved by his plea, the captain relents. He announces that anyone who stays behind with Glass will be paid $70 by the Rocky Mountain Fur Company. Hawk and another man agree to stay. Another member, John, tries to negotiate for $100 instead. But in the end, Hawk and his companion agree to stay behind without taking any payment at all, just for the chance to care for Glass. The rest of the group continues on, while the three remain behind, hoping against all odds that Glass can survive. Glass's condition is extremely serious, and John is convinced he won't last more than a day or two. But somehow, Glass keeps pushing through every obstacle. One evening, when Glass is left alone, John walks over to him, his tone bitter. "Why don't you just die already?" he says coldly. "You're putting all our lives in danger. If you were gone, your son and I might actually have a chance to survive. If the tribe finds us, we're all dead." He leans in closer and continues, "I'm going to cover your nose and mouth. If you blink, I'll take that as you're okay." But Glass doesn't move a muscle. John mutters, "You don't even need to blink," then places his hands over Glass's face, trying to suffocate him. Glass groans in agony, gasping for air, until his son suddenly appears from behind, slamming John in the head with the butt of a rifle, knocking him off his father. John scrambles to his feet, trying to justify what he did. "I was doing it for everyone's sake," he insists. But Glass's son isn't listening. He raises the gun at John. Before he can pull the trigger, John lunges, overpowers him, and brutally kills him with a knife. Glass, helpless and barely conscious, watches in horror as his son bleeds out. He's too injured to stop it. John drags the boy's body behind a slope and hides it from view. When the third man, Jim, arrives, Glass tries to speak, but the injury to his throat makes it impossible to explain what happened. That night, John and Jim fall asleep. The next morning, John lies to Jim, saying that the tribe is getting closer. Jim starts to panic and asks about Glass. John drags Glass, who screams in pain despite barely being able to make a sound, and throws him into a shallow pit. He starts covering him with dirt. Jim tries to stop him, but John says coldly, "He's going to die anyway. I'm just burying him like I promised." Then he turns to Jim and tells him to leave immediately. Jim, thinking they're in danger, leaves his water bottle behind and takes off. He doesn't realize John is lying. There's no threat. Left alone, Glass suffers in silence, trapped in the pit. Summoning all the strength he has left, he manages to crawl out and drag himself to his son's body, where he collapses beside him, resting his head on his son's chest. Starving and desperate, Glass survives by chewing bits of leftover fish flesh from a skeleton nearby. When he tries to drink water, it leaks out through the open wound in his neck. In a desperate move, he pours gunpowder on the wound and lights it to seal it shut. The pain is unbearable, and he passes out from the shock. One night, as he sleeps, he's startled awake by a flickering light. He stumbles toward it and sees a man roasting a large animal. The man sees Glass and immediately points a bow and arrow at him. Glass, unable to talk, raises his hands and gestures for him to stop. He motions desperately, trying to explain through gestures that he needs food and help. Slowly, he communicates what happened: a bear attack, his people leaving him behind, and the murder of his son. The stranger listens, then shares his own tragic story. His family and entire village were lost in a fire. Their shared pain creates a silent bond. The man offers Glass some food and says, "You can come with me." He even has a horse, which makes traveling through the rough terrain more manageable. Meanwhile, John and the young man who abandoned Glass are traveling together. Along the way, the young man begins to realize that John lied. He twisted the story to save his own skin. The boy confronts him, but John convinces him to keep going. They eventually come across a destroyed village where they find 2 horses and continue toward their destination. When they arrive, the captain hands each of them $100 as promised, but the boy refuses to accept his share, burdened with guilt over abandoning Glass. John snatches the boy's cut and says, "He's just a kid, he'll get over it, he's just scared." Back in the wilderness, Glass and his new companion get caught in a brutal snowstorm. Glass's health deteriorates, his wounds are now infected, and he eventually falls unconscious. His companion tries desperately to keep him alive, building a small shelter in the snow for protection. The next morning, Glass wakes up to find his companion missing. After walking a short distance, he sees that the French have hanged him. Pushing forward, Glass finally reaches the horses, but stumbles upon a horrifying sight: a Frenchman torturing a woman. Glass kills him and rescues the woman, but just as they try to escape, they're surrounded by a group of tribal warriors. Desperate to survive, Glass jumps on a horse and attempts to flee, but they force him toward a steep drop. With no choice, he leaps into the ravine with the horse. The horse dies from the fall, but Glass somehow survives. To stay warm through the freezing night, he cuts open the horse's belly, removes the internal organs, and climbs inside its body for shelter. The next morning, he continues on foot. Meanwhile, Jim and John have already arrived at their destination, the very place Glass was supposed to reach. That evening, a lone French survivor stumbles into their camp, asking for shelter. The group demands payment. The man doesn't have much, but he offers a small amount of money and a bottle. Jim immediately recognizes the bottle. It's the same one he had left near Glass when he walked away from him. Assuming Glass is dead, Jim becomes hopeful that at least Hawk, Glass's son, might still be alive. He asks the man, "Where did you find this bottle?" The Frenchman replies he picked it up about 30 miles from here. Convinced his son could still be out there, Jim joins a group heading out to search for Hawk, unaware that John has already killed him. But John grows uneasy. Deep down, he suspects Glass might still be alive. The captain, Jim, and a few men travel to the area where the bottle was found. To their shock, they find Glass alive. The captain is stunned. Both John and Jim had claimed Glass was dead. The captain immediately orders Jim's arrest. Furious, Jim rushes back to camp in search of John, but he's gone. When the captain checks John's room, he finds the safe empty. John has taken all the money. Now convinced John not only murdered Hawk, but also stole the money, the captain decides to go after him. Glass insists on coming along. He also makes it clear that Jim had no idea about his son's death. John had lied to him too. Following John's trail by tracking his horse's prints, Glass and the captain press on. Eventually, the tracks disappear. They decide to split up and search separately. While the captain is scanning the area, John suddenly jumps out from behind a boulder and aims a gun at him. The captain confronts him, saying, "You're under arrest for murder. Come with me." But John refuses and shoots him. Hearing the gunshot, Glass rushes over to find the captain dead and John gone. Thinking quickly, Glass props the captain's body upright with a large branch to create a decoy. When John returns and spots the figure, he shoots again, thinking it's Glass. The captain's body collapses. Believing he's finally killed him, John approaches to confirm. But as he rolls the body over, Glass ambushes him, shooting him in the shoulder. Though injured, John manages to run. Glass gives chase, and they end up at a riverbank where a brutal fight breaks out. Both men are wounded. Suddenly, a group of tribesmen appears on the opposite side of the river, ready to attack. Glass prepares to finish off John Nahr, but a memory flashes back. The man who once saved him and offered him food had said, "Revenge belongs to God, not man." Reluctantly, Glass lowers his weapon and leaves John behind in the river. The current carries John across to the other side, where the tribesmen seize him and kill him. As the tribe crosses the river and approaches Glass, they notice the girl he had rescued earlier. Recognizing her, they spare his life and walk away. In the final scene, Glass, severely wounded and alone, sees a vision of his wife. Tears fill his eyes as his breathing slows, and with that, the story ends. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to support the channel. Thank you for watching.